Hello, I'm Reuven Kimelman, professor of classical Judaica at Brandeis University and a longtime student of David Halivni. The question we are raising today is what makes the revelation at Sinai of this week's parasha, Yitro, unique? In answer to this question, Harav Livni, in his book Divrei Halev, page 143, cites Exodus 20:15. There it says, "V'chol ha'am ro'im et hakolot v'et halapidim v'et kol hashofar v'har ashen v'yar ha'am v'yanu v'yamdu mirachok." All the people see the thunder and lightning, the blare of the horn, and the mountains smoking. And when the people saw, they fell back and stood at a distance. On which Harav Halivni cites the Midrash Mechilta Darashbi. There it says, "Ro'im et hakolot v'et halapidim kenoach sheba'olam ma she'i efshar lirot et hakol. Aval kan ra'u et hakolot v'et halapidim keshem she'ra'u et halapidim kach ra'u et hakolot. Vayar ha'am ma ra'u kavod gadol ra'u." They see the thunder and lightning. Normally, it is impossible to see sound. But it was so with the thunder and lightning. Just as they saw the lightning, so did they see the thunder. When the people saw it, what did they see? They saw the great presence of God. On which Halivni comments on page 143, at that moment, the intensity of the religious experience creates an experience in which the direct encounter with God transmuted sound to sight. He goes on to say on page 144, at Sinai, the religious experience was so intense that shmiyah, hearing, became riyah, seeing. That was overwhelming them physically and spiritually. Now, prophecy involves hearing. Apocalypse involves seeing. The uniqueness of Sinai involved both. Now, this understanding already appears in Philo of the early 1st century. He considered this worthy of being repeated in 3 different places. First, Philo, on the Decalogue 11, paragraph 46, says, "Then from the midst of the fire that streamed from heaven, there sounded forth to the utter amazement a voice. For the flame became articulate speech in the language familiar to the audience. And so clearly and distinctly were the words formed by it that they seemed to see rather than hear them. What I say is vouched forth by the Torah, in which it is written, all the people saw the voice. A phrase fraught with much meaning, for it is the case that the voice of men is audible, but the voice of God is visible." He repeats a similar idea in the life of Moses, 2:13. There he says, "Commands promulgated by God, not through his prophet, but by a voice." And the strange paradox was visible, aroused the eyes rather than the ears of the bystanders. He develops the idea, 3rd place, on the migration of Abraham, 9:47. He says, "Whereas the voice of mortal beings is judged by hearing, the sacred oracles intimate that the words of God are seen as light is seen. For we are told that all the people saw the voice, not that they heard it. For what was happening was not an impact on air made by the organs of mouth and tongue, but virtue shining with intense brilliance, wholly resembling a fountain of reason. This is also indicated, he says, on the next verse, where it says, Ye have seen that I've spoken to you out of heaven. Seen, not heard. Now, in neuropsychology, this neurological phenomenon is called synesthesia, whereby stimulation of one sense triggers the experience in another. For example, hearing music as colors or tasting words. The interchange between hearing and seeing is based on the fact that the eyes do not see and the ears do not hear. Rather, the brain sees via the eyes and the brain hears via the ears. Therefore, the reverse is improbable, but not impossible. In Kabbalah, synesthesia is often associated with the spiritual, multi-sensory experience of divine revelation. And they also quote the example when the people saw the sounds at Mount Sinai. Thus, Kabbalistic and Hasidic traditions interpret this blending of senses, hearing, seeing, smelling, and touching, as a heightened, unified state of perception, where the physical and spiritual worlds merge. Now, although this has been documented for the individual, it has not been documented for a whole people. This phenomena thus underscores to what degree the revelation at Sinai was a trans-normal experience. Such transcendental experiences for a whole people are unprecedented, unlikely to be repeated. In sum, the revelation at Sinai was a unique sensory event for a unique people, and we are very appreciative of Rabbi David Halivni for alerting us to this phenomenon. Shalom, shalom.